Jake Virtanen, he has had an interesting career trajectory. Selected 6th overall by the Vancouver Canucks in 2014, Virtanen has now found himself unwanted on a second-tier Swiss hockey team. For those who don't know, Jake Virtanen has a difficult history. He faced accusations of sexual misconduct, one of which went to trial. He was found not guilty, and a lot of people attribute the end of his NHL career to the misconduct allegations, but that's not really the case. Ian McIntyre actually did a really good article about this on Sportsnet. Now, this was back in 21. He explains that it was really just a cap thing. Virtanen is under 26. They saved $2.5 million in cap space by buying out Virtanen, and the buyout was actually planned in advance, as Virtanen was failing to develop into a top 6 skill player while not showing the grit or defensive ability needed for a lower role. And with the cap hit, it just didn't make sense for him to be on the team, so he was bought out. So I don't really want to hear about him being canceled or whatever. That's clearly not the case, and I'd also recommend some reading into the details before commenting. Anyway, Virtanen would then go to play in the KHL. However, the war in Ukraine caused him, a Canadian citizen, to figure maybe Russia's not the best place to be. From then, and this was after the trial, Virtanen tried out with the Oilers. He wasn't signed, and from there he'd go to play for EHC Visp, which is a team in the Swiss League. Swiss hockey nomenclature is kind of confusing. The National League is the highest tier of hockey in Switzerland. A lot of people will call it the Swiss League, but the actual Swiss League that Virtanen played in is one tier lower, basically the relegation league for the National League. That's why you'll sometimes hear it referred to as the National League B. It's really hard to compare the quality of hockey here with the NHL. Now, this isn't anywhere close to being completely accurate, but there is what's known as the NHL equivalency model, which is sort of meant to determine the value of 1 point in a specific league, but can also be used generally in a very broad and rough sense to determine league quality. So the NHL has a value of 1, the KHL of 0.77, the AHL is down there at 0.389, the National League, the top tier Swiss League, is 0.459, and the B tier, the Swiss League that Virtanen plays in, is at 0.176, below the NCAA, the EIHL, and others. So this is not exactly a high level of hockey for someone who's played in the NHL. Anyway, according to a report from the province, Virtanen has been very unpopular in Visp. He's gotten into fights with his teammates. He's, and I quote, turned his back on his teammates. And apparently it's so bad that the rest of the team went to his head coach and said, get rid of him or it's us. He was then apparently suspended and is now on the trade block. And I mean, he wasn't some bum on this team either. In 21 games, he had 25 points and would have been the team's leading scorer had he been there for all 45 games. Just, I don't know. Clearly a dude who needs to get his stuff together. It must be frustrating having been in the NHL, now playing somewhere where many of the players I was reading actually have a second job. If you're familiar with Swiss hockey, and in particular the Swiss League, if you know more about the situation, please let me know down in the comments.